Well, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order at 5:36. And let's just do quick check-ins. Roxy and Joseph, you want to go first?
All right, what are we checking in on? What are we doing? How we been? Things like that.
Yeah.
We've been all right. Just been busy with obviously the holidays that are coming up, and Joseph's been working a lot, and things have just been kind of crazy. Like, you think that since you're home, you'd have more time to do things, but it seems like we're more busier now than we were going to the office every day. But overall, we're doing just fine, hanging in there. My sister just got a brand new puppy. She got an early Christmas gift for herself. He's a Great Dane.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, he's so cute. I'll have to show you all pictures later. But other than that, I'm doing okay. How about you, Joseph?
Yeah, doing good. I think, like you said, just busy with work and realizing I am way too much of a people person for all of this lockdown and being stuck at home.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Karen, you want to go for it?
Well, not much happening here like everybody else. I'm just stuck at home. I'm not sure whether I'll be together with my family at Christmas or not, because a couple of people around them have tested positive.
Oh.
So I may be spending Christmas by myself.
You'll be in good company.
I wish. But yeah, outside of that, I've been just pretty much sticking around the house.
There's Teresa. Yay, hi.
Hi, let me unmute myself. Good to see you all from a distance.
What's new and good, Teresa?
Oh my goodness. It's crazy times at the county. We're dealing, actually, I haven't really been doing a ton of stuff directly with transportation. I've been working on rental assistance programs. Ant Farm, by the way, your local nonprofit, has been rocking it. Has moved an astonishing amount of money out into the community for rental assistance payments.
Wow, great.
Has done an amazing job. So if you guys run into any of those folks, Noompa or any of his team, they have done fabulous work with very short timelines. So go Sandy.
Yeah. Nice. My turn.
Nancy.
Hi guys. Not much going on. Work, home, pretty much like everybody else. Christmas is next. The holidays are next week, so just trying to get things ready for that. That's about it. Nothing going on. It's good to see you guys all from a distance. But that's it.
Luna Batuna.
Well, I'm doing well. I'm dying to see pictures of those Great Danes as a grandmother of a couple of Great Dane dogs. And my mom is currently going through COVID. Thankfully doing really well, just has some mild flu-like symptoms. So fingers crossed, knocking on wood, that all is good with her and it stays that way. Other than that, we're planning on a socially distanced sledding Christmas with the family. So, and that's about all that's going on with me.
That'll be fun. Snow's cranking it up on the mountain.
I'm thinking it's going to be a new Christmas tradition.
Andy?
Hey guys, good evening. Things are good. Things are busy. Things are moving around a lot recently. So I'll get to that later, but it's good and helping our world, I feel like, here at the transit department, and clearing my mind a little bit, letting me concentrate on other things that I need to get back to. So I am going to try and take a couple of weeks off. I don't know if I can due to audits, but I will certainly be trying.
Good.
Yeah,
Well deserved. Well needed.
definitely.
Yeah. Well, I'm doing great. Doing some cool holiday offerings through the biz. I'm offering your unique holiday concerts, so you can go into either a socially distanced gathering meal with people in your household or friends, what have you, and you can have me via phone do a 30-minute concert for you live of your holiday tradition of choice, whether it's winter solstice or Christmas, and the songs will reflect that tradition. So it's pretty fun, especially for folks that are isolated. So, I mean, pretty much can't gather with certainly any beyond family that's not right in the household, and unless they're bubbled with us. So it's a way to add some joy and some uplift into the holidays, which is the way it's supposed to be. Miss Andy's checking in on somebody, maybe Bernice. Let us go to the meeting minutes from September. Does anyone have any additions or corrections to those minutes? Doesn't sound like it. So can we get a motion then to please approve the minutes of the September 20th meeting, and also the agenda as well for tonight's meeting? It all looks great to me. Anyone have any comments or additions or anything on the agenda for tonight?
I do, actually. I'm sorry. Two things, actually more than two things. I have under new business, I'd like to add some housekeeping items.
Great.
I also have our new ops manager on the phone. Nancy, he and David don't have the new link. Can you forward them the new link?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
To Bob.
Yes, to Bob. And then I'll introduce when he and David are have that new link. Do you have his email, Nancy?
I don't have his email.
Hold on, I'll send it to you. I don't know that I have the link. Easily retrievable.
I can send it if need be. I do have the email.
Will you do that, Muna?
Yep.
Great.
I'm happy to do that.
Awesome. And to David as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Minna.
And Bernice might be still trying the old one as well.
Do you want me to give her a...
Talk to her? Do you want me to call her again? Because
Yeah.
I talked to her.
Do you mind calling her?
Yeah, I'll call her right now.
Because she just accepted the event, but I don't know if it's the old event or the new event. So
Sure.
she's probably trying to get in on the old one. Sorry, apparently the city can only have so many going on the general, and we have too many meetings happening tonight. And we had a link mishap. So we had to hurry and reshuffle me into a different username and a different account so that we weren't knocking each other out. And then I also want to talk about briefly under new business, the blue trolley and the surveys. Okay, Bob, did you get it? Did you get an email from Muna?
Should be coming.
And I'm assuming you could hear part of that. Oh, there you are. Great. You're in. I'll hang up. Thanks.
For some reason, on my computer, the little Roxy Low square has the microphone crossed off, and I don't see her picture either.
They're
So
not doing-
go ahead, Heather.
Oh, I was just gonna say, they're just, they don't have the capability to do the video.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of times if you mute when you're not speaking, it helps the sound, because sometimes other people will get feedback if you're not muted. So it's good to be muted if you're not speaking. So Heather, do you mind if I jump in here and introduce Bob?
I do not. And then once we do that, then we will go ahead and get a motion to approve the September meeting minutes and the revised agenda. And I'm assuming Nancy got the additions on that. Or invisible Nancy.
Yeah. So everybody, this is Bob.
Hello.
We were testing you tonight, Bob, to see how you handled stress when you couldn't get into the first board meeting.
Oh, okay. And I passed, I hope.
You passed. You found a way in. You knew the right things to do. So we, as you all know, I don't know if you met Karen actually as the board or not. Karen was our ops manager with MV under David, and she is no longer with us. Bob is our replacement. He's been here since early Monday morning. So brand new to the service, or the division, as MV would say. So far, everybody in the building has been very impressed. Love the way he's interacting with the drivers. He's doing a great job of giving support on one hand, but also telling them the expectations at the same time. So that's what I've seen so far. Bob, I'll let you go ahead and say hi. You have most of the board members and Teresa with Clackamas County, and I'm not sure that you've met Teresa yet, but she is Christina's supervisor at Clackamas County.
Oh, okay. Well, the way I'm trying to run it is basically like a bicycle. Basically, the city and the county are offering the frame. It's up to the maintenance to provide the wheels, the dispatch to use the handlebars as the steering. We're, as the supervisors, we're the pedals, and the drivers themselves are the chain. And without the chain and without the whole different parts of the bicycle, we have nothing. So I'm just trying to let the operators know that they're just as important as everything else to keep us moving and try to keep them motivated. One of the things that I did this year to try and help get everyone motivated is Monday, we're having an ugly Christmas sweater day. The first place winner, I'm going to get a gift card for Dutch Brothers, a $10 one. Second place will be $5. And then whoever participates will get a candy cane. So anyone who participates is going to get something. I just want them to feel as much part of us as, you know, we are for them. And if we work together as a team, then we're going to have a good team, we're going to have a good group, and we're going to have safe drivers.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Welcome. It's a great division.
I do my best.
Okay, Nancy, I'm going to just had mentioned when you stepped out for just that moment that you got those additions that Andy wanted to have on the new business section of the agenda.
I got housekeeping, and then what was the other one?
Blue trolley
Blue trolley.
and survey comments.
Okay, thank you.
And I would not be opposed, Teresa. I know you've had very long days and nights with your involvement in EOC. I am not opposed to moving neighbor updates to the beginning either, if you'd like.
That's fine. That's up to everybody. I'm fine either way. I planned on sitting through the meeting, so.
Well, let's go ahead and approve the meeting minutes from the September meeting, and also the agenda for tonight that's been modified for tonight's meeting. And do I have a motion to approve the minutes and the agenda? I guess it's just Aaron, myself, and Roxy who are,
And Joseph.
and Joseph.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we
Oh, Bernice.
Okay, Bernice. Okay, talk to you later.
I'll make the motion that we approve the September meeting minutes as well as tonight's modified agenda.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Karen. Go, Teresa, if you want to start off with the neighbor updates.
Sure. I'll try to make it fairly quick and simple here. So it's definitely been, as you all well know, a challenging environment to operate in with COVID. That challenge has particularly been highlighted by the fact that we're having a fabulous snow year up on the mountain this year. And while we do have some additional funding to put some additional service on the road, the reality is that our 37 passenger large buses are currently only able to carry 10 passengers at a time. And, you know, before we would have them 37 people plus 4 or 5 standing. Now we can have a maximum of 10. Even with the ability to put a small amount of extra buses on the road on weekends, we've got kind of remarkable numbers of turndowns of people that we're not able to transport. And we're currently looking at some strategies to try to help that out. The reality is, between drivers and the number of buses we have available, it's really hard for us to put service on the road that's going to meet the need that's out there. We, last winter, we had more people wanting to ride the bus than we had buses. And that was in normal times when we could, you know, pack everybody in there. So, you know, we're talking about some different option, whether it's adding, you know, extra service during really busy times, whether it's maybe increasing, we are getting some fairly targeted complaints of people who use a combination of the express and the shuttle to get around, who are local community members, you know, possibly trying to put in some service, extra villages shuttle service to support the local community members that can't get on the bus because it's full by the time it gets up to Welch's or Rhododendron. And, you know, and see what we can do. So we're definitely exploring some capacity issues there, but it's just difficult all the way around. So, you know, I know that the resorts, I actually just talked to John Tullis up at Timberline yesterday. You know, they're certainly seeing some good activity on the mountain proper, but a lot of the businesses, the restaurants and the hotels have been pretty heavily impacted. That part of their business model has been pretty heavily impacted right now. So, that's kind of where we're sitting. In terms of funding and things like that, I don't have a lot of really big new information to report. Andy can, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about some of the funding application cycles that we're going through. It always hits us all at once. We're going through our Stif cycle. We're going through our STF, which is the Special Transportation Fund cycle. The Stif cycle is the House Bill 2017 money from the new payroll tax from a few years back. We're also applying for our preventative maintenance money, our regular operating funds, and sometime in the spring we're supposed to be applying for more FLAP money too. So it never rains but it pours, right? Mm-hmm. The last comment that I would make is that the planning efforts on the mountain, and I'm sorry, Andy, if I missed it on your agenda, you probably were going to say something about it. The planning efforts on the mountain are proceeding. We have tomorrow, actually, we have another Vision Around the Mountain meeting that we're going to be attending with stakeholders from Hood River County, Clackamas County, some of the other counties. There's different organizations, governmental partners, businesses. We've got a pretty diverse group of people who's meeting there, and the intention in terms of kind of staggering out the planning is to complete the Vision Around the Mountain, which hopefully will inform next steps as far as what transportation services look like up on Mount Hood, both connecting from the north side and connecting from the west side like we are. And that will then kind of inform the next steps of conversations about what we want to see happen up there. And how we can work ultimately toward funding it and finding a way to sustain it in the long run. So lots of work going on there. Vision Around the Mountain goes first. We'll also have an update to the Mount Hood multimodal plan coming up here fairly quickly once the vision plan is completed. And I don't know, Andy, what did I miss? Miss anything big? Okay.
No, actually, that's great because I didn't even have Vision Around the Mountain on my radar tonight. So thank you. I'm glad you went first.
So for Mount Hood Express, that's all I have for right now. There's still a lot, even with the COVID restrictions in place, there's still a lot happening throughout the entire state regarding transportation and the impact of some of the funding changes that we've had. So we are looking forward to some exciting new things. We should have last mile shuttles starting in Clackamas Industrial and Oregon City sometime, I'm hoping in February. So lots of stuff going on.
Thank you, Teresa. Okay. On to any comments? We don't have anybody here for public comment, and just go into new business for budget planning and service forecast, Andy.
So I will say hello to David. I see that he's joined us. Sorry about the link issue. See if I can unmute you.
I've got it unmuted. Thank you, Andy.
There you go. Thanks for joining us.
No problem.
I'm not sure if you guys met David at our last meeting. I know he was at the last meeting, so okay, great. Bernice, I see that you joined us as well, and I hope that you can hear us. I got a text that she's having trouble hearing us. Nancy, do you know if that got fixed for her? Oh, yeah.
It's not fixed. I have her on the phone and speaker so she can hear.
Okay, I'm gonna mute that.
Yeah.
That sounds like a bad feedback loop there. Okay, technology, it's wonderful. I will jump into the housekeeping first, if you don't mind, and just get it out of the way. There are a couple of things. I'm going to share my screen. And Heather, you could probably tell the board just as much as I can about the code of conduct that the city council has put in place for any City of Sandy board member. You've already signed one for the library. We emailed the form to board members today so that they can sign it. But before we, uh-oh, I can't do that. Okay, so before we, how can I get this out of my, there we go. So Monday morning or Monday evening, I will be going to City Council to have them accept, let's see if I can share my screen now, Chris to our board. And in doing so, the city council has gone through a process where they have, and if this started a couple of years ago. So if you remember, we talked about how we would have a chair and a co-chair, and we would need term limits and become more of an official board. We were a committee. We were then, oh, here's Jan Lee joining us. Became a board. And so when I go in front of City Council Monday to ask that Chris be added as a board member, and for those who don't know, Chris has been a driver for TriMet for 19 years and is currently a road supervisor. And that's why he's not here tonight, because he unexpectedly, as Bob and David can tell you, got called in to be at work unexpectedly. And we all know what happens. And that is not what I wanted to share. But when I ask for him to be added to the board, we will also be presenting to the board term limits for each board member. And you are all assigned new term limits. So I wanted to share that with you, although it doesn't look like the second page is part of that. So I don't know. Let's see if this does. Probably going to be the exact same thing, and it's not going to have your board minutes. All right, so I will hunt down your board minutes while Heather tells you about the code of conduct that is now in place for City of Sandy board members. And then when we come back, I'll have your new term limits. Jan, hi, thanks for joining us.
Sorry, I'm late, had another meeting.
That's
Hey,
fine.
Jan, you're good. You're good. Well, basically, the code of conduct is simply to have a homogeneous understanding that each board member of the various boards, like the Parks Board, Library, Transit, etc., agree to I feel, to really accentuate the fact that as a board member, we are representing the city in the sense of, yes, we are citizen members. However, our conduct when it comes to interacting with the public, and certainly if we kind of have our hat on as a board member, that we acknowledge these basic points of conduct. So did anybody get a chance to look at that yet? I know that that code of conduct came out a little bit.
I could not figure out how to send it back, so I saved it on my desktop and attached it and emailed it back. It's fairly easy to figure out how to sign it and everything. I thought that it wasn't anything unreasonable.
Right. I'm just reviewing a couple bits here. The three main tenets really are, as far as the values that we as board members hold, are respect, integrity, and service. That we are, you know, to take this as a serious role and be prepared for meetings, etc. Be sure that there are no conflicts of interest, and you know, highly respect city officials, other board members, and so on. This is, to me, this is for our group is certainly redundant really for how we already conduct ourselves, but I like the fact that there are specific guidelines laid out so that it's not, oh, I want to be on this board and okay, yeah, you talked with Andy or you've talked with Sarah of the library, what have you, but there are specific things that you have agreed to by reviewing that code of conduct and signing it and saying that I agree to honor these codes of conduct as a board member. So, and as Karen said, there's nothing in her view, and certainly in my view, there's absolutely nothing weird or unreasonable that is contained in that code of conduct. So I just encourage you to review that, make sure that you're all on the page with that, in agreement, and then as you can, get those back to Nancy. And Andy, do you want me to be present at the council meeting next Monday for Chris's presentation?
Not, I don't think so. They have, the last I saw, it was put on the consent agenda because they had so much on the agenda for Monday night.
Got it.
You know, there isn't a lot of
okay, just checking.
discussion around it. He's a quality candidate. Thank you for that offer. Yep. So I'm going to share my screen again and introduce our new board. Here we go. Our new board term limits and make sure that everybody feels okay with these limits. It's my understanding that, because I know that there was some concern before that you were just going to get kicked off the board. It is my understanding that people can remain on the board if there is a vacancy. You don't necessarily have to leave. So for Joseph, when December 31st of 2022 rolls around, he doesn't have to bail if he would like to remain. But they use these terms because they coincide with the library board terms. And they tried to give half of, yep, I'll get to Roxy in a minute, or Heather can. They tried to give half of the board members based on their longevity, the 2019 to 22, and then those who are newer to the board are the January 1st of 2020. And that is so that we don't just all of a sudden have an empty board. So we will possibly be looking at half an empty board, but at least we can hopefully keep with these years. And I did see, Heather, are you able to see hands when they come up? When somebody raises a hand? You're muted.
So Roxy's typing in the chat. I can. I do not see raised hands. I do see the tab's there, you know, in the participants thing, but I don't see anybody's hand raised at the moment.
Okay, so I might be the only one that can see raised hands. I'll let you know if we have a raised hand, Heather. It looks like she's going to use the chat. Roxy, you can ask your question
I was just going to use chat while you were talking, so I didn't interrupt your presentation. But my question was, I see that there are terms, but there's no limit to how many terms you can serve if there is a position open on the board.
That is correct. So if you wanted to remain on the board and there wasn't opposition, you could. If there obviously are new members to the board, then your term would be over and your seat would be replaced.
Do we have any consideration on that vacant seat as far as whether the board member is to, and coming off of how the library board with our service district with non-incorporated areas and city limits, do we have anything like that for that vacant seat on our board as far as the geographic base of a new member?
Yeah, so with transit, because we do serve a broader area than just the city proper, we can have people sit on the board who can use this service. So if someone was outside of city limits, or maybe even in Estacada, they would be allowed to sit on the board. We did have someone who is interested in the board, and I invited her to this meeting to see if it was a good fit, but I don't see that she's here tonight.
Yes, that, Roxy, in answer to your question, we did put a seat of 7 limit when we revised our they were guidelines then, they certainly weren't bylaws.
Yeah, I think we could probably adjust that later if we needed to. We had quite a bit of discussion around that number, and it's actually really hard. And when I say we had quite a bit of discussion, I'm sorry, I mean the department heads and city council. It is pretty difficult to get volunteers to sit on boards. So 5 to 7 seems like an attainable number of board members. So we currently have 7 as our board size. All right, so that is all that I needed. If, as Heather said, if you could get those code of conducts back to us as soon as possible, that would be great.
So Andy, was it okay sending it back attached? We weren't sure.
Yes. Did you send it back to Nancy?
Yes.
Yeah, she sent it to me and I was just going to forward it on to you and ask you about it.
Okay. Is it signed?
It's signed, yeah.
Great. That's all I need.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay. Sorry. I am going to share my screen one more time. Because someone asked, it is indeed finally here. Our blue trolley is here and was at the Christmas tree lighting. You might have seen it on the City of Sandy Facebook page at the tree lighting. We will wrap it. It will get our beautiful mountain graphic on the side, and of course our logos. But this is the vehicle that will run the Estacada route in place of vehicle 21, the Freightliner that we currently use. I do intend to hang on to the Freightliner for a while for a couple of reasons. One, to make sure that this vehicle is appropriate for that route. And two, the Freightliner is handy in some situations, like possibly snow and ice. And, you know, we don't know how the trolley is. So, you know, it's a pretty good hills on that stretch of highway to Estacada. So we want to make sure that this will handle it in the winter. I think it will. I think it'll be fantastic. And hopefully we'll see some really good ridership. But there she is with her beautiful wood trim.
And the all-important question, did you get the bell situation corrected?
No, the bell situation actually went into the RFQ as they designed it. So this one, what Heather is referring to, because she came by and put her own 2 eyes on it, is the other trolley has a very easy button you push that rings the bell. This one has the good old-fashioned wooden handle that they reach over and tug to ring the bell. So it's not as handy. It's more vintage and not as handy. And unfortunately for me, I'm the one that put it in the RFQ that way. So that did not get fixed. And then the only other addition, Heather, if you don't mind, is I would love for Muna to tell us a little bit about, we just did our annual surveys, which looked pretty different this year due to COVID.
Sure. So obviously because of COVID, not only because we want to keep social distance, but we were limited to how many people we could put on the bus. We didn't want to put ourselves on the bus and minus 1 passenger. So we elected to do an online survey plus a self-survey. So we put boxes on the bus and people could tear off the survey, fill it in, and throw it in. We actually received an incredible amount online. I think we had 46 surveys that were returned and 37 on Mount Hood Express, I want to say, and versus 16 and 2 or 3. Nancy would probably be able to give the numbers exactly. But I did want to share some of the comments that were received because it was pretty amazing. I can't tell you how many comments we had about how friendly our drivers are, how they're accommodating. So I'm not going to read every one of those, but I wanted to read a few that were highlighted. We are new to the Portland area and have been very impressed by the Sam and Mount Hood Express buses. We do not have a car, and the bus services are one of the reasons we decided to settle in Sandy. I just thought that was amazing. During COVID and shutdown, Sam has been amazing in keeping us connected and safe. This one gets you in the feels. I will be able to age in my home because of this service. And that just, we had a couple of drivers, Rhonda and Tom, who were mentioned a couple times, so I want to give them kudos about their great customer service. I appreciate the transit service. I am not sure what my family members would do without it. I like the Star. I do my shopping because of my limited mobility. I usually can't stand for long periods of time. These are people that would not be able to utilize or get their needs met without utilizing a service like Sam. I think those were the main comments. There's a lot of, for me, it has been a good service. Thank you, God bless you. Just so many people thankful for this service. And we had a great turnout considering we weren't actually on the buses. I think we all missed being able to get out there and kind of connect with our riders this year, but this is potentially a good avenue for us going forward to get feedback from people.
Those are impressive return numbers.
I thought so.
Okay, I think we were pretty impressed. We weren't sure how that was going to go. So happy to have surveys returned. We need to do that for our grant funding, and it tells us a lot. We'll analyze the rest of the results later, which tell us, I can tell you by briefly looking, as they say every year, the thing they want the most is more frequent service. They say it every year. This year, like I said, I did a brief glance. I'll be curious to see, but at a brief glance, it looked like this year, more Sunday service was the most requested, especially if you add, you know, this is my highest and this is my second highest together. It's usually more frequent service and later service, but I think this year it's Sunday service. So I'll be curious to just go through and analyze some of those results and see how many of those people. We usually hover around 70% of our ridership that say they do not own a car that they could have used for that trip, or they don't have a car. Doesn't mean they don't own one. Their husband could have it, or you know, a family member, or it's broken down, but they did not have a car that they could have used for that trip. And 70% is a very high number. That's a pretty transit dependent population. So always look forward to looking through those surveys and seeing what we can learn about our riders and how we can improve our service. And then I think now we're back to the normal agenda, Heather. Thank you for letting me kind of crash it.
Of course, crash away, friend. Let us go then to our old business grant updates.
Yeah, so I'm just going to share. Oh, I've got a chat. Hold on, let me read it. Thank you for that, Jan. Do you mind if I share that for those who might not see the chat box? So Jan gave us kudos for being exemplary in our behavior, but one of the reasons it was designed was to remind people who are on boards about how to behave on social media and in public meetings, etc. So thank you, Jan. Karen, you can go to the top and either push the little line to the left of the box or the X, and you will be back out of the chat. Okay, so I am going to share a document, if I can find it, that will kind of show you our revenue sources. I'm sorry, did I hear somebody?
No, I just said thank you.
You got it. So let's see. I had these open earlier so that I could be sure to have them ready for this meeting. And I just almost ended our meeting instead. So let's not do that. I'm going to stop that share to bring you guys back. Sorry, I am not the tech person of the day. And it doesn't want to give me that as an option. So while I look for it, I will just say that as far as new business being budget planning and service forecast, I wanted to put this on here tonight because, as you know, with COVID, everything seems to be changing quickly, especially in our financial world. And so this is one thing that I want us to probably keep on our board agendas going forward. I want to continue to have the conversation where I bring you what our finances look like, and keep you apprised of any service changes that I see coming down the road. I want to be sure that I have a lot of your feedback and understanding as to what I'm seeing in our future. Here we go. Maybe if I open this, then it'll let me. And of course, I can't open it because it's already open, which I know. Here we go. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to share is actually funding projections. And let's see. It's not, I did not put all of our revenue sources in this document, but the main ones. So we do have some other smaller revenue sources. We get revenue through our IGA with Clackamas County. We receive revenue from Estacada for, from the city of Estacada for our Estacada route. We receive money from the community center as reimbursement for the programs that we provide on their behalf. But those things are not the bulk of our funding. Obviously, our grants are the bulk of our funding, and then that payroll tax that you see there is not only super important because it's what we use as our local match for our grants. I will tell you, for those who don't know, I sit on the Oregon Transit Association board, and there are agencies in Oregon, and this is why STIF was so important and created, that don't have payroll tax. And so sometimes they could get more federal funding, but they don't have the match. So they have to leave federal funds on the table, so to speak, because they don't have the local match to bring those funds in. We are very fortunate to have our payroll tax, and not only has it provided us with the ability to bring in grants and have that match, but it also, by bringing in grants, it's allowed us to have quite a bit of a savings, which right now is, I can't tell you how important the fact that we do have a contingency account is. So I just wanted to highlight what is happening with our funding, because we are already, as I'm sure you can imagine, starting to see the ramifications of COVID on our service. Fares, so what you see here actually, if I recall, let me remember what I did. What you see here are our revenue sources, and fares in 2019 was, you can see, was doing pretty good, really good in 2020. But as you know, we have 0 fares coming in right now. So we went from, it looks like about $19,000 in fares in Q2 of fiscal year 20, down to 164 in Q4, and 0 for Q1, and 0 for Q2. So and in the past, fares have been anywhere from 23,000 to 20,000 a quarter. So that's a pretty big hole to be without. What I've done in this is, you can see I don't have it zeroed out. I have it as though we brought in maybe 50,000, because even when we go back to collecting fares, if we continue to have capacity limitations on our vehicles, then you're looking at $10 if the bus is full to go to drive. So, and probably not very many people will be buying passes if you can't get on a bus, if you can't be guaranteed to get on it because there's only 10. So what I'm showing you here is also the payroll tax. 2020 was, we were doing really well. So, and as you can see, bringing in the payroll tax. However, that really screeched to a halt, and a little bit of this, I will caution, is also that we did waive the deadline for the April tax and moved it back to July to give a little cushion. So we did see a lull in that quarter that we normally, let's see, I believe, I may or may not have it up here in front of me. Yeah, so in Q1 of this year, we brought in $16,000, $16,700 in payroll tax. In Q1 of fiscal year 20, we brought in almost $85,000. So that gives you a little bit of a difference, or shows you the difference in our payroll tax. However, Q2 of fiscal year 21, we did see it rebound, and it was actually even a little higher than Q2 of fiscal year 20. So I think what we saw in that quarter was the people, because we did waive that deadline, it came in later than usual. However, when I add those two quarters together, just to get a comparison of pre-COVID to COVID, it looks like we've dropped about 23% so far in payroll tax. So I put a 23% assumption in my numbers for 2021 and for 2022. I don't know how those will go or how that will shake out. If we open back up, we might see that payroll tax obviously go back up, but as long as people are sick, that's going to affect our economy. So until that gets under control in one way, shape, or form, we can at least probably assume a 23% reduction in that payroll tax. The good news is, if it's good news, I guess, with STF and maybe 5310, we'll have to see. That is, as Teresa mentioned, that is where we get funding for our preventative maintenance. It's where we get funding for our elderly and disabled program. It's where we get funding for the Estacada route. It's where we get funding for our dial-a-ride. So it's a pretty big pot for us. And it looks like that is either flat or maybe possibly flat with a COLA. Considering that our expenses are increasing, it's not great to have flat funding, but it's better than seeing it decrease. So let's cross our fingers that is how that pans out. And as Teresa said, we will apply for those grants in about, I think it's January something. Teresa, do you remember what the actual deadline was?
No, I have to unmute myself. I think it's January 7th. Is that right? It's early January.
Yeah. So, so we will go into that process with crossed fingers and some really strong grant writing, hopefully. I also want to point out that the STIF, if you look at the gray and the yellow, the STIF funds, as you know, are new, and we put service on the road with them. And in this fiscal year, we are not, according to ODOT's projections, we will not see the amount of money that we thought we would see. So we thought we would end fiscal year 21 with 150,097. And it looks like we're going to end up more about 144,000. And they've projected even less for fiscal year 22, which is 127,000 and some change. So we're not seeing that pot of money increase, unfortunately, because just like our payroll tax over there, as you know, STIF is a state payroll tax. So that one really depends on the economy. 5311 is a little misleading in this chart because that is a 2-year grant, and the difference in years there is how I spend it, basically. That orange bar is really high because that is year 1 in a 2-year grant, and because of our contractor situation and drivers were in-house, I was spending a lot of that money instead of other funding sources with ODOT's permission. So normally we spend that pot half 1 year, half another year. We spent it, a lot of it up front in year 1. So it looks lower in 2021 for that reason. I expect that to stay pretty flat. We might see a 5% decrease. We probably won't see an increase for the next 2 years in that funding. And then we have a lovely, our FLAP funding, as Teresa said, we will probably have an application to go into the FLAP funds in the spring. That they are telling us there's going to be a little gap in funding. So we may not see funding from that source as soon as we thought we would. And we will have it spent down at the end. So I have it written into the STIF plan to use funding from that plan to cover what we would have brought in from FLAP. I also, I want to remind us that we do have CARES Act money. I believe we have about, let's see, $265,000 left of CARES Act funding. So that is a good chunk of money to help us fill some of these holes, and we're going to need it. And then we also, as I mentioned, do have a contingency. So although I put service forecast on this, I did it as a placeholder and to let us know that I want us to keep our service in the forefronts of our minds when we come to board meetings. I have no intentions of cutting service or reducing service at this time. I have every intention to ride out the economy until we are back strong again.
Do we have any restrictions on those CARES Act funds, Andy? Are they restricted for just operations, or what's the scoop on that?
Yeah, so thank you for asking, because that is important. They are restricted. There could be some flexibility. However, generally, you can use it for capital, but it has to be COVID related. So we will be using it to put professional germ guards in the buses. We're getting quotes now to do that. We've used it to put hand sanitizers in the buses. We've used it, or we will use it to put some more screens here. We bought 2 extra seats for 2 vehicles, hoping that gives us another person in 27 and 28. So we do have the capital funding. We can use it for operations, but it has to be COVID operations. So if you hire extra people to clean, you can use the money for that. If you have to put an extra vehicle out because you are meeting your capacity, you can use it for that, but it can't be, you know, just in general. We have, and what I put most of ours in is to get reimbursed for lost revenue. So when the past couple of quarters, when we've seen fares and taxes fall, I have gotten reimbursed through that CARES Act through lost revenue. And there's another one. Oh, and then there's a category that you can use for paid leave when people get sick, etc. But again, it has to be COVID related.
Well, I want to just make a comment to you, Andy, and Muna, the staff, everyone, that really huge congrats on doing such a great job of money management, you know, with the funds that we have coming in, to be able to have a contingent fund and everything else. I mean, that's a skill, and it's also great foresight, planning, and so on. So I just want to acknowledge that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We all do. I will say we all do work very hard. I'm very proud of my staff. We're tired. I keep saying it. We're very tired. We've been through a lot the past 2 years. It feels pretty good right now to, you know, we tackled a lot of capital projects this year, a lot. And we did it with deadlines, and we did it with COVID and wildfires and everything else that we could think of, new contractor. And so I'm really happy to see 2020 go, but I'm also pretty proud of the work that we've done here. So thank you, Heather. I appreciate that.
Indeed. I mean, it's monumental what everyone has done, kicked in the department, everybody.
As you can see from the chat from Robert, sorry, Bob. Thank you, Roxy.
You're right, Roxy.
It's never a dull moment. I'm assuming that Bob's comment went to everyone, or was it just me, that the Pacific Pride gas is down and one has caught fire? So yeah. So we're fueling an Estacada right now. Never a dull moment. Welcome aboard, Bob. Never dull. Little fire, you know, just roll with it.
Andy, you mentioned COVID, and I wondered what level are the bus drivers considered? Are they essential workers? Will they get vaccinated right away?
We're actually, thank you for asking. That is something that I, as president of the Oregon Transit Association, have recently sent a letter to the governor and the health authority requesting that they are considered essential employees, which would put them in group 1B. So 1A is healthcare workers and the elderly, 1B is essential workers. The union, the APTA organization, and one of the unions, it has also sent letters across the United States to governors requesting the same. So there's a pretty big campaign right now in Oregon, and like I said, several different agencies going in it together. I know the OTA has our lobbyists talking to the governor and OHA requesting that transit workers, and last I saw they were included as essential workers.
Well, I would say just grab some of those comments that Muna read and you know, put those in with any as supporting documentation.
Yeah, you know, the fact is that they are essential. They're there for the frontline workers. They're there for people to get to the essential things they need, like doctor's appointments. They also every day work with the vulnerable population. So, if they are vaccinated, it will add that extra wall to a population that needs the people they come in contact with to be healthy and vaccinated. So I believe they will be pretty high on the list.
Andy, I have a question. I'm just curious.
Yes, ma'am.
Not to raise flags, but is the department requiring drivers to have this vaccine, or is it optional?
No, at this point in time, it would be optional.
Okay, I was just curious.
Now, obviously, MV is the employer of these drivers, so MV will have the final say. But I have not seen anything that makes vaccinations mandatory at this point in time.
Andy,
Yes.
on behalf of MV is going to encourage the drivers to get the vaccine when it comes out, but I don't believe that we can actually force that issue at this time.
Yeah. Thank you, David. Yeah. And thank you, Roxy. That's a good question. It's important.
Well, I appreciate you answering it. I'm just saying that, I mean, to the best of our ability, because we're still dealing with the unknown, obviously. But for some people who could potentially have serious reactions to any kind of vaccination or underlying medical condition that won't allow them to get this type of stuff, I just was thinking for those who, even though they may want to take it, they physically can't due to the complications that they currently already deal with.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Okay, so what did I do with my agenda? I think that is the layout, or most of the layout that I wanted. I had another chart, but we're getting short on time, and I don't want to like just beat us to death with funding issues. So, but I do want us to just keep aware of our funding situation, and that the next 2 years might be difficult. I think I can move to bus barns, Heather, if you don't mind. Okay.
I was just going to suggest that.
Thank you. So a lot of you already know me on Facebook, but some of you don't. So I want to share, and here we go with, how do I share my screen? I know that you all know what the bus barns look like. However, PW throughout the construction, every once in a while would fly a drone over the project for us so that we could, when we applied for reimbursements through the grants, we could show ODOT our process on the project. So I just want to show this group that those photos before we go today. If I can, I don't know why. It doesn't let me. I'm gonna have to scoot you guys down and get rid of that. Get rid of that. And it's not on my desktop. So let me see if I can get in my, I'm sorry. Gonna have to put up with me. I can get in my drive and share it with you. I know that you guys can't just come see us, so I want to have you see one of the things that we tackled this year. Am I sharing?
Yes, you can see it. I was yelling at you, but I was muted. I was like, yes, you can see it.
I can see it, but I'm not quite sure what I'm looking at.
That is the construction happening of the 2 barns.
It's the aerial view, Karen, from the drone that's shooting the footage.
And there they are. These two are brand new barns.
Well done. Beautiful.
Thank you. They turned out really well. Super proud.
I was gonna say they look amazing.
Thank you. There's my stop share. The drivers for a year now we've always parked where those barns were built. And for a year that's been blocked off for construction. So it has been an obstacle course that they have masterfully driven. We had 2 oopsies, which is not many. If you saw the way they had to park those buses every night and just figuring out the logistics to get in and out without that space, is my hats off to the ability that they have and the care they take with our equipment. And I know that they are just as happy to have that space back that I am. So it's a thrill to be done with that project.
Yeah, that was a long time challenging project.
Yeah, it was.
For many reasons.
Yeah.
Andy, Roxy had some questions and clarification wish on discussing the social media interaction. Did I relay that correctly, Roxy?
Yeah, you related it correctly. I just was curious. I mean, Jan had posted something about, I don't know if the post she is talking about was something about the city or about a council of the city, and they tagged other people that are council members. But in the code of conduct in there, when it talks about social media, when you are representing yourself and not representing yourself as a council member or representing the council, you should be able to post whatever you want on your own personal social media. It's if you are trying to represent the council in a situation or in a post without actually having the council having agreed upon that same type of representation. Am I understanding that correctly?
Most of the social media is very acceptable, and as you said, that's correct. But what happened was we had one member of a committee attack a planning commission member, questioning his reputation, calling him names on social media in, I think it's called Sandy Community. And we had another person go to Sandy Community and maliciously attack an employee. So those were not on the city's website, but they were on websites where a lot of people go. And so although they were representing themselves, they were attacking city people. So that was one of the reasons that there was a real concern, and the city managers had to call a couple people on that. I know none of you guys would do anything like that, but that was one of the issues that kind of drove it, is how do you deal with people who are going to go to those far extremes. And actually there was discussion about removing people who did that after they had a warning and still kept doing it.
Thank you, Jan, for your explanation on that situation, because I had absolutely no idea what that situation was about. I knew nothing of it. Especially if you are on a Sandy website of any kind, since there's probably 12, 13, 15 out there that actually are for Sandy residents, Sandy area, Sandy rural, whatever. Of course, those types of Facebook pages, you definitely wouldn't want to post things on because you are a council member. But I was saying on your personal, on your own personal Facebook page, as an individual, you should be able to post whatever you want without the fear of, oh my gosh, I'm going to be kicked off this council because maybe the council doesn't see something a certain way, and you're talking in your own personal view, not as a representation of a council member for that council, if that made sense.
Yeah, that's definitely correct. But I do think that attacking people in a libelous way, even on personal sites, might be problematic.
Oh, absolutely. I don't condone attacking anybody. That is completely unnecessary and unprofessional in any shape or form. I was just saying, in other things out there, whether it's political or non-political or whatever, not individually to a person who actually is a city employee or another member of a council that represents the city of Sandy.
Yeah, that's correct. You could certainly say, I don't like this subdivision because, and that's perfectly acceptable, but attacking people personally isn't.
Or I would think too, in my understanding, Roxy, it also would reflect to the greater as well as the individual, to not be maliciously attacking, naming an individual that is either staff or on council or in even one of these advisory boards, that it would also extend to the city governance, city management in general, that it's like, oh, the way the city's handling this is, if it were to get libelous there, I think that would also run the risk of being against the code of conduct. Would you agree with that, Jan?
You're muted, Jan.
I was shaking my head, yes, but not very loudly.
Yes, we couldn't hear the rocks rattling. Jan, I think that you're right on about not only city employees, but you should not be attacking anyone personally on Facebook or any other media. If you want to state what your opinion is of a ruling or a plan, that's one thing, but attacking people is just not called for ever.
Right.
Yeah, I just wanted clarification only because don't get me wrong, but when you put in a code of conduct, the social media people get very scared and become afraid to even post anything on social media because it may offend somebody. Or it could be about Christmas, and maybe this person or people don't care for the word Christmas. They like holidays, or maybe they are, they do Hanukkah or this or that. So some people can go to the extreme on the other side of being afraid to be able to freely be themselves on their own personal social media. And it is not okay to attack anybody regardless of whether they're with the city or not with the city, or on a board or not on a board. But I'm just saying, in general, as a member of a council, when you get the code of conduct that specifies that, it puts a little bit of a gray area that people just need clarification, that they can still be themselves. They can still do what they normally would on social media. They just have to remember that they cannot represent the council while they are doing something individually. There's a difference between the two, and some people can mesh those together by accident. I've seen it before with other councils that Joseph has been on. And so I just like to try to clarify for anybody how important it is that if it's personal, you have to represent yourself as an individual, not as a council member of a city council.
Absolutely. Any more comments, discussion on anything we've covered tonight? Okay, how about a motion to close the meeting?
Also move.
I'll second.
Thank you, Karen and Roxy. Welcome to the club, Bob.
Thank you.
It's a good one.
Yes, it is.
Well, I'm happy to be part of it.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. So good to see you.
Yes.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I have one thing. Jan, this is Jan's last transit advisory board meeting. Jan is leaving the council.
Oh.
I know. You are going to be so missed. You've been valuable to this board. You all don't see, but Jan sends me everything in her many different capacities that she holds. If she thinks it's relevant to the transit department, she sends it my way. So you've been much appreciated, Jan, and you will be missed. And in January, we will have a little something for you here at the office to celebrate the holidays and say goodbye. I don't mean a gathering. I just mean you can come by and pick something up.
And I will still keep sending you things.
Yeah.
And maybe as a member of the public, I can come and visit every now and again on the committee.
Please do.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for all your help.
I love working with all of you, even though it's been a short time, just a year and a half.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful.
Thank you, Jan.
Thank you.
Hey, Merry Christmas to everybody and Happy New Year.
And to you, Bernice.
Happy holidays, everybody.
To you all.
And may
Yes, happy
2021
holidays.
be much better.
Yes.
Yes.
Happy New Year for sure.
Happy holidays.
Yes, Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy New Year.
Yeah, everybody keep
Merry
great
Christmas.
care.
Yep. All right.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.